So thank you for joining us today for the Early Achievers Hybrid Project Group Call. Today we have joining us as panelists Kathy Blair with Child Care Aware of Eastern Washington. She's a regional coordinator for that region. Kathy, you want to say hi?
Hi everyone. It's just really nice to be participating.
Great. And then we have Jamie Phillips Jimenez from SQL at the University of Washington. She's our Early Achievers Quality Standards and LENA expert.
Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us.
And I have Beata Simmons. She is the Associate Director at SQL at the University of Washington.
So glad to be here today and to join everybody in talking about early achievers.
Great. And as I already said, I am Sue Rose, and I'm a pre-K specialist with the Department of Early Learning, and I will be facilitating today's webinar. During this webinar, we're going to talk about the roles of our early learning partners. They will share with us along the way tips and helpful hints in moving through early achievers. And they will also answer questions that many of you have asked. So please do type in your questions throughout this webinar, and that will help us guide the next topic for our upcoming webinar and how soon we need to have that, and if we need to put together a frequently asked questions one-pager. So before we really begin, I wanted to talk about our partners in quality for early achievers. So the Department of Early Learning is actually the lead administrative agency and is responsible for ensuring that all elements of early achievers are implemented with fidelity. So the department must report on system progress as part of the Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge expectations. DEL is also responsible for facility licensing and maintaining merit, and the QRIS data system WELF. Child Care Aware of Washington is actually responsible for the I in our QRIS, and they oversee the technical assistance, level 2 trainings, and coaching. The University of Washington is our evaluation partner and is responsible for the R in QRIS. The UW is responsible for our facility ratings and developing the coach framework. The State Board of Community and Technical Colleges provides opportunity grants to low-income adults training for a career in early childhood education, and have created stackable certificates as a way to help support child care professionals and other early learning professionals in meeting their career goals. And Thrive Washington helps fund and support the 10 regional early learning coalitions and partners with the Department of Early Learning to building an early learning system that helps ensure all children get a great start in school and in life. So now I'd like to give the mic over to Kathy Blair with Child Care Aware, Eastern Washington.
Thank you. For Child Care Aware roles, I'll just I know that Sue talked about the improvement, the I in QRIS, and we really provide supports to help providers increase quality in their programs. And so you can see that there's technical assistance specialists that help people through level 2 when they're ready to be rated. We provide the rating readiness consultant to help people prepare for their rating. And once they're rated, then they're assigned a coach to help people with just continuing their quality improvement. Another part of Child Care Aware is offering training, both trainings that are part of level 2, and Child Care Aware of Washington also offers scholarships for college degrees, whether it could be the 2-year degree, a bachelor's in ECE. That's another aspect of what Child Care Aware offers as well. And Sue, would you like me to talk a little bit about my own, like who I am, a little bit about myself?
That would be great.
Okay, that's next. Thank you. So I'm the regional coordinator for Eastern Washington, and basically my work is really overseeing the work of early achievers in the 11 counties of Eastern Washington, and the overall success of preparing people for ratings that the University of Washington then does will help moving people through level 2, and then of course the coaching aspect after they're rated, just maintaining quality and continuing to work towards higher quality. My background includes being a center director for 16 years, center owner director for 16 years. I was spinning off a nonprofit for the 3 early intervention program that was housed within the community-based program. I know many people listening have programs that have a fairly high percentage of children that qualify for services, and that would be similar to what we provided as well as Spokane Child Development Center and Children First. And also, I think one of the reasons that I'm also on this webinar is because in Eastern Washington we've had a high degree of success in helping providers achieve a level 4. And I would say that we range between 15 and 20% of our, probably about 15% of our providers are achieving a level 4. It is a little bit challenging, but we are really beginning to have a lot of clarity around that and understanding what it takes to get to that level. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, Kathy, thank you so much. And that is exactly what I think we are really looking for is, you know, how can we be the most successful in moving our site through early achievers so we can get that required level 4. So anything that any of our panelists have to say about that, we definitely want to hear it. So thank you, Kathy. Dia, you're next.
All right. So my name is Dieta Simmons, and I am the Associate Director at Sequel at University of Washington. And my role is to oversee the data collection process that informs the Early Achievers ratings. There's several roles that we have on our team. The first is community liaisons. And I'll just kind of run through how we go about what our qualifications are and so on. So most of our team have bachelor's degrees in early childhood education, and they have all worked in early learning environments in some capacity. Most of them were preschool teachers. Some of them were previous center directors. The data collectors also have the same type of background, but we do emphasize more having the experience in the classroom for them. And again, most of them have early childhood degrees or related degrees. We have teams based across the state, as you can see on this map. Most of our team is concentrated in King County, and we have an office there. The rest of our team is spread out, and they are home-based, hired out of the communities that they live in. And we have, on our data collection team, we have several languages represented, including Spanish, Korean, English, Cantonese, and Somali. For other languages, we actually use a translation service, and that seems to be working pretty well. Community liaisons are the point of contact right after a program has been approved for on-site data collection. Data collectors, of course, are the folks that are collecting the data. The assessment leads are all based in King County currently, and they do all of the quality checking and so on that I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. And last, we have the coach support team, and they work with the early achievers coaches to make sure that we have an alignment between what we're looking for and what the coaches are helping providers work on. So now I'm going to kind of go through what the data collection process looks like. I'll start at the beginning with licensing. So all programs that are participating in Early Achievers were licensed. Now we're going to be exploring how we can incorporate even more programs. So some people may have a certificate or other things that would be qualifying them. Once a program joins Early Achievers, they will be considered in a Level 2 program and working on rating readiness with their technical assistant specialist from Child Care Aware. Once rating readiness is complete and the provider is ready to apply for on-site evaluation, the regional coordinator, like Kathy Blair, who is on this call, will approve them, and that approval triggers a couple of things. We will get an auto email from the Department of Early Learning telling us that this program has been approved for a rating, and our community liaisons at that point reach out to the provider as soon as possible, usually within 2 weeks of the date of approval, depending on the volume of approvals that we have gotten in a particular week. The community liaison will work with the program to make sure that everything is in order for the rating. They'll review the file of supporting materials and make sure that all of the consent forms and so on are in place. And once they have kind of gone through all of their checklist of readiness items, they will let our scheduling lead know that this program is ready to be scheduled for on-site data collection. At that point, the program is considered in our queue, and our scheduling folks go into the information that the community liaison has collected about classrooms, and she will randomly sample a selection of classrooms. 1/3 of classrooms of each age group receive an environment rating scale observation, and the other 2/3 receive class observations. If there's only 1 or 2 programs, each classroom, only 1 or 2 classrooms, they will each get assessments. One of them will get an environment rating scale assessment, and the other one will get class assessments. In the environment rating scale classrooms, teachers will be asked to wear the LENA, and you can earn a point just for agreeing to wear that, but all teachers do need to consent to wear that LENA, and they can choose to decline at any time. So that we will collect that environment rating scale data, the class data, the LENA data, and then the data collectors submit that into our online web-based early learning system called WELLS. Once that has all been entered, well, actually, let me back up a little bit. They also will be conducting the records review at the same time, even though it is the next bullet on the list. So you may have more than one data collector in your program working on different pieces of the data collection. The records review piece is the file of supporting material that you have put together to show evidence of how you are meeting the Early Achievers standards. And the data collectors use a rating readiness tool to help them find where all of the materials are. So one thing to keep in mind is that the data collectors are really interested in evidence of practice. So when you're filling out your rating readiness tool, it's important to think about where the current things are that are in place rather than just maybe previous examples. They really want to see what's currently happening in those classrooms. Once all of that records review data has been collected, then it moves into the coding process. We collect because in the field, the data collectors are just collecting the data. They're not actually assigning any type of points. Once it's all been collected, then the lead data collector will go through and they will assign credit to each one of the components. And then there's another data collector that usually wasn't at the site that will code that data for a second time. Then that is compared, and the 2 data collectors and an assessment lead sit down at a round table to discuss the assigned scores and make sure that everybody's in agreement that they have best highlighted this program and really represented what they're doing to support the children and families that they serve. Once coding is complete and roundtable is complete, the assessment leads do a final review before turning the site over to be, before before publishing the rating in WELS on the assigned date. And once that rating has been published, then we are turning the program back over to Child Care Aware, where they can make plans for improvement based on the wonderful data that they've received from their assessments.
Dieta, it's Sue Rose.
Yes.
I just had a quick question, and I don't know if you're the correct person that can answer this or not, but we have some participants that are interested in getting some support from perhaps I don't know if it's open to our participants to join the Coaching Companion or doing any kind of getting additional coaching support. I know we at DEL ECAP will be providing some webinar support throughout the year, but I had some questions come in about them being able to access some coaching support.
That is a really great question that Soleil would be the person to ask about that, so I'm writing that down right now.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I agree with the people who were asking. I think that's a wonderful idea, and I know that coaching and getting ready for rating is really what we want to really be able to sink into. So anytime we can, whatever we can get, we'll take, I think. So thank you, Dieta. And Jamie, would you like to talk? Jamie, are you there?
I guess I was muted. I'm so sorry. So thank you. What I was saying is I have my bachelor's in ECE, and I taught at a Montessori school for a while, as well as Head Start, mostly preschool. And some of the things I was going to talk about today is the quality standards point. I am one of the assessment leads that Dieta mentioned above, and my parts are the LENA as well as the quality standards. So, as Dieta said, most of the things that we're looking for are practices that have been in place, but we don't necessarily see them. So what we really want to see is documentation, because most people are doing these things. We would like to remind people to please refer to the SAM. I'm not sure if you guys have the SAM, but if not, we'll get it to Sue, and she can put it in with the FSM tool, which Kathy, who is also on this call, which Kathy and her team put together. And so the FSM tool there's one page per standard point. So it's a way that you guys can organize your FSM file supporting materials to be able to show us all of the great things that you have in place. Some of the hints that I would like to share is that when we're talking about all children, we really do mean all children in all age groups. Sometimes we'll have a curriculum in place, but we don't have a curriculum in place for infants. So we really mean all age groups. Documentation is super important. Just document everything. And if you don't have documentation, then documenting why you don't have documentation. So for example, in screenings, we ask that screenings are shared with parents. And sometimes, we don't have a signature from a parent. But if we had a log or some kind of documentation about multiple times that a teacher tried to contact the parent, if the parent wasn't receptive, we wouldn't hold that against them, and the point may be awarded if we have documentation as to the why. For mentoring is one of the other things that is a little bit confusing, and so one of the questions that was asked. And so when we talk about mentoring, we're talking about traditional mentoring, so that is what we think of as someone who is more experienced helping someone who may be newer to the field. It might be the director helping teachers. It could be an outside person helping teachers. And so with that, we would just want to see some kind of documentation of notes, agendas, participants. The other form of mentoring that we look at is feedback from a reliable observation. So if someone came in and did an environmental rating scale, or someone came in and did the class in different classrooms, the notes or the feedback that was given to the teachers from these reliable observations is also considered a form of mentoring. We also consider in-service training. So if for some reason, directors or someone identifies things that need to be worked on at the program level and they recommend that everybody attend, for example, a math training, then that would be considered an in-service training, and we would consider that as a form of mentoring. There are different ways that people have documented these things. Usually we'll see the agendas with notes. We'll see a log with dates, the topic, who attended. We can also see notes from the meetings where the reliable observation feedback was given, or agendas from the trainings, the in-service trainings that they attended. And those are the things that I have for now. If there's any other questions, we can answer them. If you put them in the notes section, we'll get back to you. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, that's great, Jamie. Thank you. So now we want to move into questions from hybrid participants. So this question says, I am a teacher and want more information on early achievers and preparing for data collection. Is this an approved blog?
This is Dieta, and the answer to this, thank you. So did you want me to read the answers since I put them on the slide?
You don't have to read it. You can just say it. You can say it. You don't have to read it word for word, whatever you'd like, just telling.
So blog, I'm not really very familiar with it, but I do believe that it is monitored by a child care aware employee. Actually, Kathy, you might know the answer to that.
I actually don't know the answer. If monitoring was being done, it would be from Child Care Aware of Washington, and I imagine that they do keep their eye on it.
Thanks.
Okay, so this question comes to us about the substantial portion of the day from the ERS. So what parts of the day can be counted into this calculation, Dieta?
So substantial portion of the day is really looking at children's access to learning materials. It's asking for each item that's listed, it's looking at it separately and wondering if the children have had an ample amount of time to access that material. So for substantial portion of the day in ECRS-R, we look for 1/3 of the time that children are in attendance. So if it's a 3-hour program, we'd be looking at 1 hour of access in order to get credit for substantial portion of the day. Now you'll see a sample of what it looks like when we're calculating substantial portion of the day. What we do is we write down what the planned schedule is, if there is one available in the classroom. And then we also write down what the observed schedule was of what actually the children experienced during that time. And we kind of weigh those together, and we look separately for each item to see how much access they had. So over on the right side of the screen, you'll see that for furnishings for relaxation and comfort, the children only had 41 minutes of access, but for books and pictures, they had 58 minutes of access. So they received credit for substantial portion of the day for books, but not for furnishings for relaxation or comfort. And this was because their planned free choice time was only 45 minutes when they actually needed 50 to reach 1/3 of the day. And the free play time was from 2 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. And we see in the actual schedule that did match up pretty closely. They got 41 minutes in reality. So that's kind of how substantial portion of the day works.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so another question is, if a teacher's schedule includes enough time for a substantial portion of the day, is it possible that they may meet the requirement for free play but not space for privacy?
That goes back to the previous question. You will receive credit for substantial portion of the day separately for each item that asks about substantial portion of the day. So you may receive credit for one area and not for another area. It will really depend on what the children are actually experiencing and the schedule that is in place.
Substantial portion of the day. What percentage of the day should children be allowed for gross motor time? Can this amount count whole group gross motor activities?
So for a full day program, it'll look at children having at least 1 hour of access. During that hour of access, children should be able to choose from accessible materials and companions. Gross motor equipment in general, the 1 hour access is for gross motor equipment in general, and then at least 1 hour of access of outdoor free play each day, weather permitting. So
and
usually,
the other one, yeah, sorry.
I was going to say usually those two go together, that you have access to gross motor equipment when you are engaging in outdoor free play. It could happen that it's not. Maybe you have your dramatic play materials outside instead of gross motor, but in most cases you would see that the outdoor free play occurs with gross motor equipment. Now if a program is less than 8 hours in length, we use this chart here that's in the front of the ERS spiral, and it is a chart that lets us see the length of the program and how many minutes would be required for accessibility for gross motor equipment and outdoor time.
Great. So would I be correct if we had a program or a site that was running like 2 hours and 40 minutes, they would fall at about 20 minutes?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
So here is an ERS question, and this is regarding schedule, which is indicator 1.1, and I'm just going to tell you what 1.1 says. It says schedule is either too rigid, leaving no time for individual interests, or too flexible, chaotic, lacking a dependable sequence of daily activities. And the question is, most of our classrooms have a recess time schedule that is out of their control. Will they receive a yes on this standard because the data collector will say this makes the schedule too rigid?
So this is a great question. Having one area of your schedule that's not as flexible as others, it won't automatically result in a score of a 1. I gave an example here of if the children were really looking for bugs outside on the playground and they really did not want to come inside, they were so engaged in this activity, a teacher could show flexibility by maybe letting them play with plastic bugs inside and making a scavenger hunt instead of maybe a different activity that she had already planned. This can be shown, flexibility in schedule can be shown in a lot of ways, and what we look for is the teacher flexible when it's needed, when there's a situation that warrants it. It's not always possible, of course, but teachers, frequently we see teachers showing flexibility in their schedule.
Okay, great. Okay, so I am quickly monitoring, kind of perusing the questions that are coming in, seeing if there's anything that I can get to while we're on this call. So I also want to continue moving through these questions. So if you hear me pausing, that's what I'm doing. So the next slide is about the ERS again, and it's regarding group time. And this is indicator 3.2. And 3.2, which is in the spiral on page 65, it says some opportunity for children to be a part of self-selected small groups. And the question is, what if teachers limit the number of students that can be in each center? Students can choose what center they will play in, but if the dramatic play area only allows 4, and there are already 4 in the center, the child will have to choose another center. Is it best to not limit the number of students who can be in the center?
So it is totally fine to limit the number of children in a particular area. It actually can be a really good strategy to help the children that are engaging in a particular interest center to even engage even further in that area by not having to worry about overcrowding or interruptions. The goal is that all of the children have a reasonable chance to have access and engage with the variety of learning materials that the teacher has made accessible in the classroom.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so this one has a great question. So over here, is this quiet reading corner too close to this block area?
So in the environment rating scale, when we're talking about separating quiet and more noisy areas, we're actually looking for physical separation of space. So we would not consider a shelf sufficient separation because there could be issues with noise in the block area that would still disturb the children in the quiet reading area. What we're looking for is that teachers have taken action to try to arrange their classroom from quietest to more noisy areas. So you've kind of got the noisy areas as far away from the quiet areas as possible. One suggestion when I look at this picture is to maybe consider moving a writing table into that area or some type of science materials. The other thing that I think of in this particular space, and I don't know, it might be that that door there is an emergency exit, but if it's a door that the children or that people will be frequently coming in and out of, then it could be very troublesome for children trying to build substantial block structures in that area.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so this question is about the quality standards, and it's referencing the rating readiness tool number 19. I'll just let you know that number 19 says documentation that teachers are trained and reliable on assessments. And the question says, on the section for formal ongoing assessment, for our ECAP kids, we use teaching strategies goals. We have other students who have a preschool checklist that we use as a report card and share with parents 3 times a year. Would this count as formal or only informal? Are there other formal ongoing assessment tools besides TS goals that would work? Oh, Jamie, this is for you.
There are a whole bunch of assessments that would count, and I will share the list that I have. It is on the Dell website, but it's hard to find, so I will be sure to send that to Sue, and we can get that to you guys. What we consider a formal assessment is one that is either purchased or created that is structured and tracks child progress. So I haven't seen the checklist that this particular program uses, but it may count if it is a structured way that they are tracking the child's progress. What we really want to see is that all children have a assessment in their files. So it can be TSG for some kids and this checklist that they created for other kids, as long as all children have this assessment.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. So this next question is also for you. So on the rating readiness tool number 12 says developmental screenings are conducted within 90 days of enrollment. And the question is, can we use the early screening inventory, sorry, I got a misspelling there, the ESI, or the Ages and Stages questionnaire, ASQ, and still get early achievers points? Or do we need to use the same screening tool on all children?
So this is similar to the question above, and again, we are just looking in to make sure that all children have a screening on file. We don't necessarily care if they are different screenings. We just ask that whatever screening is used is reliable and valid. So an ESI, the ASQ, or even the CDC that is used more widely in early achievers would count. And don't forget parent signatures. So once you do have your ASQ or your ESI, just make sure you have your parent notes that it was shared with parents. And if you don't have parent notes and you weren't able to get that parent, have a log of the times you tried to contact.
And this is Dieta. One more thing I would say about this is to make sure to date when it was shared and also when it was conducted.
Yes, date everything.
Date everything. Okay, that's helpful. So for rating readiness tool number 26, where it asks about the, lead teaching staff being trained on the Washington State Early Learning and Development Guidelines. We've had at least one group watch and complete the training on DEL's website along with the survey that follows it, but they weren't able to see a certificate or a way to prove that they had done it. Is there a certificate of completion, or am I just missing it? And I just want to say really quick that what these really smart people did is they printed the final page. I think they took a screenshot and printed it, and then the teachers signed it so that they can put that in their file of supporting material. Jamie, will that work?
Of course, as long as we have some way to know that our teachers, were able to go to that training. Also, if they were able to enter that information and they were able to enter their merit information, we will be able to see it in merit. So it should be fine.
That's wonderful.
And Sue, I have one more thing to say about this. We let Department of Early Learning know that that link to get into the training was actually incorrect. There's actually another place to go where you do enter your information, and that's through the Child Care Aware website. And if you do it through that website, that's when it will automatically go into your merit record.
That's great. And I just received from Kathy Blair today a help guide that shows how to access the correct website, and I have put it on one of our final slides as a resource to help participants access that. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, so creative curriculum training. I am an ECAP director. If I take the creative curriculum training for administrators and then come back and train my teachers, will that count for early achievers, or do I need to have one of my teachers take the lead teacher creative curriculum training and come back and train the others?
Hi, and unfortunately, according to creative curriculum, that the administrator and the lead teacher creative curriculum training is not a train the trainer training, so they would not count. We do not have a recommended curriculum that we ask people to use. However, depending on the curriculum that is used, we follow their recommendations. So if creative curriculum has certain trainings, then lead teachers need to, all the lead teachers need to attend that creative curriculum training. So for example, if someone has a self-made curriculum, then we would ask that they have a curriculum development training. Does that?
That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Oh, okay. And here's the resources that we kind of pulled together for regarding the webinar that we did today. And I just want to point out that there are 2 websites here or email boxes for questions that you may have around the environment rating scale. And this one is answered by the author, so we're really requesting that you really dive into your All About books on the ERS and look at the additional notes for clarification before emailing either of these addresses. Otherwise, these are both available to you for that support. This one is answered by the authors, and this one is answered by the data collection team at UW. And here is a link to a help it's a PDF for the online level 2 trainings. And I believe it covers topics. The trainings cover overviews on ERS, class, and the early learning guidelines. Kathy, if I'm wrong, let me know. So what I'd like to do, if my panel is up for it, because we do have a little bit of time, I'm going to try and peruse we do have quite a few questions that have come in, and if you feel up to it, we can try and answer some of these.
Sue, can I say a couple things before we start?
Absolutely.
Couple things as far as helpful hints go that I think that we have learned in achieving level 4. There are 2 areas of focus that when I talk to providers, I really talk about focusing in on these specifically, which is, you know, the class. Getting 40 points in class is really critical. 35, 40 points. Our level 4s that have succeeded in achieving the 4, of course, they're getting most, if not all, of the points in class. And that instructional support piece is really the most challenging piece to get all the points for that. And the other piece are the quality standards. And there were a lot of questions based on the rating readiness tool. And I really want to call out the FSM tool. This is a tool that's aligned with the rating readiness tool, and it has a lot of information that was actually provided by the University of Washington to help guide what needs to be put into your file of supporting material, what things to pay specific attention to, which Jamie and Dieta made reference to in several places when they were talking about your questions around the rating readiness tool and the quality standards. It has just a lot of information that's important, and what I tell providers is that it's like a recipe, and if you are making cookies and you're wanting, you know, good cookies, you include everything in the recipe. And when you're looking at a specific quality standard, the FSM tool really lays out the recipe for you to likely get those points or the point. And it's a piece that you, when you're putting together your file of supporting material, it gives you a way to organize it that is really helpful, I think. And again, it does align with the rating readiness tool, so it ends up making a lot of sense when you pair the 2 together. I just really want to call that tool out because that's been a big help and support to providers as well.
That's great. Thank you, Kathy. And the FSM tool, for those of you that have attended previous webinars with us, we did a May mini series, and we put together our file of supporting materials, and those are the pages that go, you know, in front of each of your tabs, and the FSM tool should be waiting for you to access in the Dropbox. And I'll make sure that it's still hanging out there, because I agree it is a really nice reference. I also placed in the Dropbox additional handouts that you can use to help sites with the environment rating scale. So I was taking a look at one of the questions that came up was around, you know, child care where coaches are able to access rating information in WELS. And so this coach is asking about, you know, how am I going to be able to receive this rating level data? And I just wanted to say that what we plan on doing here at DEL is we're allowing our Head Start our ECAP sites for sure, access to WELS, and we'll be doing a training on how to enter your coaching notes and what you can enter in there in supporting your sites. So Nancy, you should be able to gain access this fall to that information. Otherwise, sites that are on the Head Start ECAP pathway or part of this hybrid project, we send out rating information to our contractors listed as the primary contact and merit, so that you can have that information to work on continuous quality improvement. And let me see if there's anything else that, Mary, I see your question, and I think that I'm going to need to talk with you about this one. Oh, that's a great question. How about this one? Panel, what do you think about this one? How many points are people averaging on their phyla supporting materials in order to get a 4? Is that something that you guys know off the top of your head that could help?
This is Dieta. I do not have that number right off the top of my head, but we can definitely pull that and let you know. Kathy, yeah. you might have an idea, or Jamie, you might too, because you look at a lot more of the final. I haven't pulled that data recently.
In thinking about our level 4s, they do get most of the points, but definitely not all of them. So I know that that's really a vague answer, and I'm sorry. That, but you know, that some of the points are just really challenging to get, and I guess the nice thing to know is you don't have to get 100% of the points to still get a level 4, but you do need to get, you know, the majority of them.
Great.
That's my guess would be, so there's 35 points possible, and my guess would be, you know, about 20-ish.
And that would be contingent on getting a high score in instructional support, like Kathy mentioned before. You can kind of tally it up. We actually have a tool that we're hoping to get out to folks so that they can kind of make a prediction themselves about what they would need to do to reach a level 4.
Okay, so one of the other things that has come up is I know people are very interested to know when our coaches are going to be getting trained in wells. And I just wanted to say that we'll be doing, you know, we've been talking about this upcoming coach orientation webinar. And in that webinar, we'll be offering an outline of kind of taking you through the steps in wells and kind of unveiling it, I guess. So that'll be coming up, I will say soon. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's been officially scheduled or not, but I know we've been updating our coach contact information so that we can send out the invite. So I would just say in the next few weeks, we'll have that. And so I'm just looking. So I just want to say, I know that a lot of you are thinking the same thing that Amy has asked, and that there's a lot of confusion around the timelines, because when all of you started in this project with us here at the department, we've been really saying, like, you need to go through cohort 1. And as it stands now, cohort 1, you would need to submit and have an approved request for on-site evaluation by October 1, which is next Thursday. So what we are looking at is cohort 2 as a possibility, because the Early Start Act requires that sites are rated by March 1st. And these sites, although the rating wouldn't be finalized until, I believe, April 15th, but cohort 2 would get you that window of data collection from January 16th to March 15th, I think. And so we're leaning towards being able to offer that as a cohort, but unfortunately, we need to have that in writing before we can, so I don't want to raise your anxiety about that, but I want to make sure that we have that in writing as we move forward, and I understand that October 1 is next Thursday. So my hope is that we'll have something that we can communicate to each of you and to all ECAP contractors to help understand what our timelines are. And I understand it is confusing, and we want to help reduce that confusion. So thanks for asking that question. And you know, another question that's come up is, you know, will ECAP directors at the contractor level have access to wells? And I don't know, actually. I have to find out, Debbie. It seems like it would make a lot of sense that our contract level, you know, contractor level staff would also have that to kind of see what's going on with coaches and the work that's being done, but I have to double check. Great question. Okay. And I know people are really interested in UW doing trainings, you guys. You guys are very popular, and we love the work that you do. I know that there's been a lot of interest in as much support as possible on the class and the ERS. And we're just, I just want to say that I'm really thankful that you have joined us today, and I think that the participants are really happy to have you on board. And as we continue working together, maybe we can come up with a lot of creative ideas on how we can continue supporting these sites.
That sounds like a great idea, Sue. We're willing and ready to help in whatever way that we can.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I know that Soleil is the person to definitely get with in regards to the instructional support piece. She may have, I believe she has a training that is ready to go that might be helpful.
Okay. Well, I will connect. I will connect with her. So, and I appreciate all these other things that are coming in. Let's see here. This one. Hang on one second. And then Debbie, you also, if you can give me a little bit more information about what you want me to put in the Dropbox. You want me to put in like some of the steps and strategies that were mentioned today on how sites can be successful in getting a rating of a level 4. I think that's what you're asking. Let me know. And then it looks like you really want the, you want to make sure that the FSM tool is in. So I'll double check on that. Okay. Okay, and then for Amy, you have a question about, you know, the license pathway. Child Care Aware has to approve our file of supporting materials before we can request rating. Is this the same for the hybrid? What is the process? So basically, for these sites, we have the ECAP contractor, so the director typically is the one who approves the request for on-site evaluation. So let's just say, Amy, you have, if you're the ECAP director, you're the primary contact at the grantee contractor level. When one of your sites, regardless of if it's the hybrid or Head Start ECAP pathway, you will see that in your application queue, and then it would be up to you to approve that request for on-site evaluation. So that's kind of the process that we're going to be going with. And your coaches are going to be working on this and hopefully working in connection with directors. And if anybody needs additional support on how to move forward and who should do what, or if you want to talk with us about, you know, am I ready? Am I not? We can schedule calls. And as Manette Mason, our new QRIS specialist, comes on and gets going here, she might be able to schedule additional calls to help support you as we move forward in this. And we will always take into consideration. That's cool. Nancy, thank you for, if we want to do some trainings on the weekend, Nancy can help us out with getting a space at Wenatchee Valley College. That's awfully nice. Nancy, thank you. Okay, and then Debbie, you said yes, that is what you wanted, is strategies for reaching that level 4. Great. Okay, so as we only have a few minutes left, I'm just taking another walk through our questions. And I think we are good. All right. Wonderful. All right, if there's nothing else, and if you have any if you have any questions about moving forward, I would ask that you please contact me. So I am still going to be your contact for right now, and then soon we'll be transitioning Manette into this role, and she'll be helping as well and getting to know each of you. So, but for right now, please feel free to email me. I would love to hear any additional questions that you have about the process, about ways to support your sites, questions on training, ERS, class, and ways that we can support you. If you want more of UW, let me know. I can partner with them to get them on more webinars. They've already said yes, definitely. So we want to do whatever we can to support each of your sites through this. Okay. So I say thank you for taking time to be with us today. Thank you again to our panelists, Deetta Simmons, Jamie, Kathy, and I appreciate each of you. Go enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.